What's going on, everybody? This is Zach Dresch, and you're watching the Dresch Code, home of all things music from a Dresch perspective. And today I'm doing a first for the channel. I'm doing an album review twofer. 2 albums for the price of 1 video. That's right. My good friend Cole James Anderson requested this, and I'm excited to do it for him because he's a fantastic director and writer. Check out his stuff. I've been working with him on Late Night Boomin', and I'm very excited to keep working with him. And yeah, here are my thoughts on 2 albums by Oliver Tree. Oliver Tree is a hip-hop artist, an alternative artist, pop rock artist, rapper, whatever you want to call it. He's that, and he's also quite a character. Literally, he plays a lot of characters. Some in bowl cuts and 80s neon suits, others with a mullet that looks obviously fake in a cowboy outfit. I just don't know how to describe this man, but his music is pretty catchy, so let's dive right into the albums. Let's dive into the first album. This one is called Ugly is Beautiful. This is where Oliver Tree is playing Turbo, a character that has a bowl cut with the neon stuff, which I talked about earlier. Anyways, let's get into the tracks. The opening track is Me, Myself, and I. Works pretty well as an opener, kicking off the album with a really cool vibe. His vocals blend really well with the music. The mixing on these tracks is actually really well done, too. Oliver's voice is not necessarily for everyone, but I think blending it more in with the music works a lot better. Not to discredit his voice. He's got a strong Tom DeLonge influence in his voice, I think. But it works for his favor. You know, it works for these types of songs. 1993 is the second track. It's more disco-y, a little bit heavier as far as like bass and thumping goes. This track doesn't quite work for me. It's not as poppy, which I think just maybe is kind of his weaker suit. I like it when he goes a little poppier, which is kind of more prominent in the tracks like Cash Machine and Let Me Down. And as far as instrumentation goes, whenever a lo-fi acoustic guitar is kind of put in, I immediately get a Pixies vibe, making me wonder how big of an influence that band is on him as a whole. Cash Machine and Let Me Down, like I said, are prime examples of this. Let Me Down even sounds derivative of Where Is My Mind, if you've ever heard that track. All it's missing is the oohs. Can't really sing today. Still an effective track and one of the best on the album. Miracle Man also continues that trend of the acoustic pop rock kind of vibe. Bury Me Alive changes things up a little bit more with Oliver dropping some bars on this track, and it works. It's not necessarily my favorite track on the album, but he is a great rapper, and this track is absolutely proof of that, and he's got this cool, sinister kind of vibe to it, and I think it really works. Alien Boy continues the album, and I think it's actually a really cool track. The keyboards interspersed with the chorus really blend with the track well, and this one kind of changes the pace on the album yet again. This album is very versatile, and you can tell that Oliver is influenced by a lot of stuff. And I think this is a really cool track that shows that exactly. The second half gets a little fillerish with songs like Joke's on You, Again and Again, and Waste My Time. These don't quite do it for me. Oliver sounds kind of on autopilot on a couple of these songs, and I'm not blown away by it. So they're kind of skippers for me. Not like Gilligan's Island. Skippers. Anyways. The track Jerk brings things back with a cool electric guitar part throughout the song, and Hurt is even better with another catchy chorus. You got Introspective right after that, which is a nice blend to me of like hip-hop and alternative rock, maybe a little pop-punk to me, an aspect I wish Oliver would have experimented with a little bit more on the album, but anyways, it's still a good track. Also, I forgot to mention, he does a Let Me Down remix with Blink-182 as a one-off single, which I think sounds really, really cool as well. And finally, the last track on the album, you've got I'm Gone, which is a fun way to end the album. It's a nice upbeat rock hip-hop hybrid. Overall, I enjoyed this album. It didn't quite blow me away, but there's enough here to keep you tuned in throughout. Oliver, like I said, experiments with a lot of musical genres, which I think is cool. So I'm going to give this one 3.5 out of 5 Fro picks. Also, before we get into Cowboy Tears, let's talk about the deluxe version of this album real quick, effectively labeled Shorter, Thicker, and Uglier. It's 7 additional tracks. The first one is Life Goes On, which was the main single from this version. And I think it's okay, but I just don't think it quite deserves to be a hit. It's just kind of annoying to me. But apparently it was a hit, so there you go. What do I know? It's like 300 million streams later. Nah, whatever. Other tracks on this album, you've got Every Type of Friend, which is a simple, catchy, disco-y tune, which I like. Out of Ordinary is okay. Swimmer's Delight, SOS, has got a really cool, dreamy pop vibe to it. When You're Around shows Oliver spitting some fun bars. That's a fun track. The chorus has a really cool chord progression, which distinguishes itself from the rest of the bonus songs, in my opinion. The last 2 tracks on this album are absolutely my favorite. As I've said before, I like it when there's upbeat electric guitar rock-centric tracks the most. All in All is more mid-tempo, but it still works, and Lies Came Out of My Mouth ends the bonus tracks with a bang. It definitely should have been on the regular album. Let's get into the second album by Oliver Tree. He just released this one last month. It's called Cowboy Tears. And I think it's pretty cool. It's got a different vibe to it than Ugly is Beautiful. Pop music with more acoustic guitar arrangements with hip hop beats. Some of the lyrics are cheesy, but that's kind of Oliver Tree's thing. In the first track, Cowboys Don't Cry, the lyrics are like, who said cowboys don't cry? Come on, baby, let's take one last ride. Kind of cheesy, but it's a great way to kick off the album. It's a pretty catchy song. Swing and a Miss is probably my favorite song on the album. It's a great, catchy chorus. It just keeps going and going. It's a really catchy tune. I'd vouch for this one being a radio hit down the road. We got Freaks and Geeks and Doormat. Continue that trend with catchy acoustic pop with some hip-hop influence. Really, really good tracks. The next couple tracks, Suitcase Full of Cash and Cigarettes, lean a little too far in the gimmicky department for me to fully work. But, I mean, they still work at the end of the day. His coughing at the end of Cigarettes is actually pretty funny. Balloon Boy is okay. The lyrics about floating away are just a little too cringy, not cringy, but cliche. It's one of the more forgettable tracks on the album, in my opinion. Things We Used to Do is a good contender for a single. I really like the chorus. It's a little simplistic, but it works for me. After that track, the album falls a little flat for me. California might be a contender for most annoying vocal performance by Oliver. Take me back to California. I know I'm a fan of pop punk and everything, but come on, Oliver. This one's just, oh, man alive. Anyways. Get Well Soon, Playing with Fire. A lot of these tracks towards the second half of the album suffer from being a little mediocre on the surface. They don't quite do it for me. I'm probably not going to remember these tracks much after this review, to be honest. But they're still okay tracks. If you're an Oliver Tree fan, they're still going to be great. I like the last two tracks, however. The Villain is a nice slice of acoustic pop yet again, talking about not wanting to be included among the jerks and the bad guys. I will say, though, if you watch interviews with Oliver, it's kind of hard not to villainize him because of his bravado and almost douchey attitude, but I'm pretty sure that's just the character. Or is it? I honestly don't quite know. I really like the final track. The title track is Cowboy Tears. It's more of a callback to the last album. There's more electric guitar on this one than the rest of the album, which is a more acoustically driven. So I thought it was a good way to close out the album. I would have wanted a little more electric guitar, I should say. This album got a lot of hate from critics saying it's too rushed, and that may be the case, but some of the tracks I think would be great on radio. They are probably going to be radio staples, and I think the album is really cool. It's got some cool, different, versatile genres kind of blending together, and I think it's really cool. It's not a bad album by any means. There are some missteps, like I mentioned, California, never again, and the lyrics can be a little cringeworthy, not offensive cringe, but bad cringe. I think it's a pretty solid album. It's not the best thing in the world, but I'm going to give it 3 out of 5 Fro picks. Thanks so much for watching this video, everybody. What are some of your favorite Oliver Tree tracks? Did you love those albums? Did you hate them? Let me know in the comments. Do you have a top 10? All that kind of stuff. Be sure to like and subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and we'll see you on the next video right here on the Dresh Code.